on. Here we go. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Kevin Jarina checking in. We are here with Synergy Solution Sessions. I have the doctors here. Let me bring them up. We'll all say hello. Hit the record button. And here we are. There's everybody. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Vesna. Hopefully everyone's doing well. And getting geared up to have a conversation. Today we're talking about Psychoneuro and basically this is how the body integrates all the different systems that you've ever heard about are all integrated. And we want to just have a conversation about how that is and what that is. And then of course how we can help you, how we can affect that from where we are sitting in this part of wherever we are as doctors and providers sitting in our individual locations around the world can have a positive impact in your life. So we'll dive into that today. So let's dive in. I actually want to start with, I love showing this graphic because it demonstrates the chain of events. And not that graphic. Well, that's one step ahead of me right there. That's the graphic. And for the doctors at home, let's take a look here. And you've seen this before, but it shows the flow of how different concepts of the human body interact. Function. Let's talk about function. I'm gonna ask the doctors to comment about what is function. Just like, you know, a 1-word, 2-word answer that everybody can understand and can grasp. Function. How would you describe that, Sasha? I'll put you on the spot first. What is function?
Drums. The ability to do things.
The ability to do things.
Just made that up.
Exactly, just like that. Function. Your brain was functioning right there. You had to come up with an answer right on the spot. George, give me a quick one. Function.
Purposeful activity.
Purposeful activity. I love that. And Dr. Ian.
Purpose? Yeah, purpose. Sure.
Purpose. Vesna?
I like what George said. I'll go with George. Yeah, let's go.
This popped in. I liked it too. Yeah.
And Sasha. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't put on the spot.
Yeah, not first.
It was just so tricky. Well, it's function, like, yeah. So I'll go for purposeful activity too.
I like that. Okay, purposeful activity. Well, you know, running, jumping, picking up somebody, cooking, cleaning. These are all purposeful activities. And I venture to consider, this is what really got me going years ago. I attended a series of lectures by Dr. James Chestnut, a Canadian chiropractor, but in medical school, he's a phenom there apparently. And just, this was the foundational time when this research was really gaining ground. And he collected all this information from neurologists and endocrinologists and any science you could think of, putting the pictures together from different areas of research, and we get concepts, like that slide, that demonstrate how the function of what we do every day in life is tied to the structure of our physical body, the chemicals of our life, so the biochemistry. And this is what everyone, I think the mainstream headspace is around the chemical component of life. But we're missing other aspects because they both play. The scale goes both ways between then of course the EMF and subtle energies and intention and information, and that gets into the mind realm, and then back, of course, the structure can affect chemistry. And so that's an interesting phenomenon. I notice all the time in my practice, people come in, they get their work done with what I deliver, and then they go get their blood work, and it's different. It's better, or something's changed. We'll say it that way. Yeah. The person feels better, moves better, functions better, and that's the fun. That's the fun part of hearing the stories of people coming in and out of the practice. Dr. Ian, I saw you nodding. Tell me a story that was popping up in your mind when you were thinking about this.
All I thought was you said it all, man. You got it from A to Z. Yep.
Right on. Well, thank you for that affirmation. George, go ahead.
Yeah, it's on a spectrum. Again, we're back to the triangle of life, but mechanical is, condensed solid, chemicals a little bit looser than that, and EMF, intention, all those things. It's all the same thing at a different scale. like electricity is scalable.
Right.
Yep.
It's really interesting. There was this. I remember being young in like art class, and there was these art books that had like, and this happens in anatomy books as well. It's like it's like a clear page with a layer of, let's say, a color and a certain diagram. So in the body, in the anatomy book, it was like the layer of organs, and then you flip the page, and then there was the layer of muscles on top of it. And of course, if you flip it back the other way, there's the layer of bone holding the structure. So you could see the different layers of the human body as you flip the pages over. Anyway, I see what George is describing. All these aspects of who we are like layers of who we are. What's that? There's an old wooden doll from Russia. You could stack it in itself, and the next one goes in the next one, the next one. Vesna, you know what's it called?
Yeah. Babushka.
Babushka doll. Yeah.
Yes.
They're so full of themselves, those things.
Can I say something? Do you know the largest number of dolls in the set?
No.
I've digressed. I'll tell you. Do you want to know?
I would love to hear over 20. How many?
It's over 20.
Okay.
20.
And the answer?
51.
Wow. Oh, 51. Wow, that's
Honestly.
Wow, that's super cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's so many layers, and
I
it makes me think about what it is to be a human being, and what does that contain, and how does it all interact and operate. And this is why I love showing. Let's see if I can get the right image up. Excuse me. I think we're here. Yeah, there it is. And I pulled up, and I'll show the doctors at home. I pulled up the web page I was showing before we got started from PubMed. And let me show everybody at home. Sorry, but we are live and we are I have a lot of things happening over here. So we're in the National Library of Medicine, pubmed.gov, and I have the search term I've typed in, and here we are, Psychoneuro Immunology. Now this is an article from 2008, so I didn't pull up the most recent thing, of course. I just typed in the most basic term, and this is just describing the nature of this science. And let me see it, make sure I have the whole window in here. Nonetheless, psychoneuroimmunology, PNI, is this discipline that's evolved in the last 40 years to study the relationship between immunity, the endocrine system, and the central and peripheral nervous systems. In this matter, neurotransmitters, hormones, neuropeptides have all been found to regulate immune cells. And these in turn are capable of communicating with nervous tissue through the secretion, wide variety, and I'm not going to get into the details, but the cytokines, all these different communication and messengers of different varieties that I want to keep the conversation simple. Although this is, as we were having fun with before, this is a $20 word right there, psychoneuroimmunology. And there's actually other terms I included in the description of today's show. Psychoneuroendoimmunology, which is has more of the description in the term and in the name, but that's a big mouthful. That's a big mouthful. Let's see if I can everybody on the same page here. There we are, and we are back. So psychoneuroimmunology. George, I heard you say, what comes to mind with that?
It's just when you said PubMed, I thought of a bunch of people sitting around a pub drinking Guinness, and that's kind of therapeutic. That's where my mind went. Sorry, I'm back.
George, I know what you're thinking about. Is it quitting early time today?
It's afternoon, but it's 11 o'clock somewhere.
Indeed. But here we are, PubMed. It's where all the medical people go get drunk. I'm sorry, that's a joke. That's a joke.
Well, so back to the original question: what does psychoneuroimmunology mean? Was that the question?
Well, yeah.
When we have thought, it changes our chemistry. So if we're having positive thoughts, we get good chemistry, and that cascades through the system. So good things get to happen, including the immune system says, "Hey, this is a happy body. I don't need germs living in me." And if you're kind of in a destructive spiral of thoughts, let's say, then your body says, well, apparently you don't like living here. I'm going to start dying. And then the germs come in to feast on the dead tissue. I mean, it's an extreme version of it, but that's kind of how it works over time, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you're talking about the chain of events from getting from our thought realm, and I'm highlighting it for people at home, the information and attention levels, and how that affects down the chain to the biochemistry.
Right.
Absolutely. And Dr. Candace Pert, who is someone I love to follow her information. She's, of course, since passed, but she was on the teams that discovered the foundational information that end up becoming the science we now know as psychoneuroimmunology. And so that being said, it's quite a delight to be able to have that influence. And so, let's talk about how that ties in, Dr. Ian, or I'll call on you first. How that ties in with what we're doing here with KST and doing the distance work, where we're tapping in at these more subtle levels of what it is to be a human, but it does. I was going to say this: it does have a impact on these levels. Talk about some, add to that, if you could.
Sure. Ology, that on the end of the word psychoneuro, immunology means the study of. So we're studying the immune system, which is your body's natural defense, which is what actually fights off germs and things that you encounter in your environment. So it's the psychoneuro effect on your immune system, the study of all that. So what's your psychology mean for your body's natural defenses, for your immune system, is what's encompassed in that big word.
Right.
How your psychology, how you think, whether you're depressed, whether you're happy, whether you're physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in a good place or whatever, versus if you're not, how that affects your whole body and your immune, through your immune system. So very interesting stuff, yeah.
Well, thank you for it. It's a great description to help people
definition, I guess, but yeah.
see that come together. So the next question is, well, what can be done? What can be done? And Sasha, talk about that next component. What do you hear in that word, psychoneurology, and what can be done to help it, and specifically in our context here? Any thoughts?
Well, we can help it with the work that we do.
So I look at it as
there are plenty of tools for people to help themselves out there as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, there are both aspects where, like the analogy, if you can't scratch your own back, there's certain parts that you can do yourself, certain parts that you need help with, and that's what we're here to help make the world go around together. Dr. George.
Yeah, I'm bursting at the seams today. So Candace Pert, The Molecules of Emotion, the book, says that the first, how do I write this down? An emotion is first a chemical event. Something happens, your body responds by producing certain chemistry, which then is perceived as an emotion, but it has to run through your filters first.
Right.
And your filters are it's in the nerve system. And so events that stain the nerve system a particular way or a different way are going to color what perception you have of this chemical event. And in neuroemotional technique, which is part of KST, I like to think of it that our psychology resides in our neurology.
Mm-hmm.
So if we've got subluxated neurological pathways, they're going to favor one response over another. And if subluxated, probably going to be a negative response. So how can we interact with this? Well, when we adjust people, we're allowing the body to clear neurological channels that are holding onto filters that are not favorable for the survival and thrival of the organism. How's that for a mouthful of words?
Well, like every week, I'm going to invite people to rewatch that part because and watch it a couple times. There's a lot in that statement, and but the point is that for that chemical reaction to happen, that produces that emotion, which the molecules of emotion talks about. You're right. There has to be something that precedes that sets up that condition.
Right.
Yeah, and that's based on a lot of factors that come up with an individual as they are born into this world, and then go about in the environment and adapting to the environment. And that means getting banged up, means falling down, means functioning in life, moving, jumping. You look at children running around. They're here having fun, necessarily aware of their physical body and the nature of falling off objects or running into things, or even how to control their own body. But then as the child grows, has to adapt to all those bumps and bruises over the years. I used to go ahead, George.
Well, I'm thinking of O.G. Russell. I just looked at one of his papers. He talks about traumatic birth injury, which is almost universal. 85 to 90 or 95% of the things we see in our office, including adults, probably had their roots in the birth trauma. Getting pulled out with 90 to 120 pounds of force, subluxated atlas and or axis 99% of the time. Like, a lot of what people are grappling with now started the day they were born.
Yeah.
So talk about installing filters, right? It happens early.
Oh yeah. And I'm sure all of us have experience working with infants at certain points along the way, and it is, I'll just mention, it is such a delight to see. It's literally like the life and the light, like the light bulb goes on when that process is when the interference is released, the subluxation is released. It's like air goes in, life goes in. It's just, how do you explain all those different factors? Vesna, your thoughts on the conversation so far? What can you add, please?
Well, just that really enjoying it, and good idea is monitoring our thoughts, because so many, most of our time, I think 95%, we're autopilot, not aware of our thoughts really, and our reactions to certain events, which create our emotions. So that happens subconsciously. So one of the ideas is to write every now and then, to write what our thoughts are, to be aware of them. That's the first step.
Yeah. And there's a lot that could be said to that. There's many self techniques, and there's many practices at home one can incorporate to do that. In fact, I don't normally talk about this, but I want to say hello to all the people on 4 Foundations. This is exactly what we talk about, our daily strategies that are simple, we can incorporate to nourish ourselves and learn how to handle and learn how to understand what those things are. It's like a self-analysis, self-observation. The mind becomes the laboratory in many ways. And how do you nurture that and forge, so to speak, a good neurological habit pattern, so that you can respond in different ways that are more beneficial to you, like dropping the old and wiring in. It's like with sports, because I played a lot of sports growing up. When it was time, whether it was swinging a baseball bat or throwing a discus or javelin, or even a football, practicing a specific play, the same movement was repeated over and over and over and over and over again, to such a degree that it became hardwired. It became automatic. I remember football practice, a couple afternoons. All my coach had me do was move my foot 3 inches. Boom. Boom. I didn't do it right in the game, apparently. And so, boom. Boom. And just that first step is so critical in playing American football. And every athlete can, to a sense at certain levels, I'm sure, can attest to that. And so we can wire that in with our emotional habits. We can wire that in with our responses. And I'm guilty of this, getting into a habit of eating too much peanut butter late at night, or whatever that may be. I can rewire that. It takes effort. With the momentum in the beginning, like any endeavor, right? Here we are. So I want to say thank you, all docs. This has been a very fun conversation. I really appreciated our thoughts today. And we're going to shift into the members area only. This is where we actually we set the intention, we do the healing, and this is for any additional conversation that goes on. And this is where I share this is where some of the other bonuses and content is stored and shared. So by all means, go to synergysolutionsessions.com, and that's where you can get access, support the program if you're getting some value out of what's going on here, and dive into a deeper level. Blessings and best regards, everybody. See you next Wednesday at 12.
That's such a huge topic. Well, I could talk about that for hours. Consciousness, emotions,